Oh, and welcome back to yet another Friday. Well, we're talking all things Coach Prime's book, Elevate and Dominate 21 Ways to Win on and Off the Field. This week, we're trying something a little bit different. If you're hearing in the background some melodic music, just to set the ambience, right? It's one of those Fridays where, in wanting to learn and try new things, right? Just see what vibe we can get with this background music as we can still, you know, learn and have a conversation and analyze this book. So we're talking about chapter four, right? Chapter four this week. Chapter four is about, it's the topic of chapter four is make confidence your natural order, right? So, you know, that's what we're going to be talking about this week. So if you're just joining us for the first time, make sure you check out our previous videos. And what we're doing here is every Friday we're just analyzing and having a conversation about Coach Prime's book, which is a bestseller now. So feel free to join us every Friday and just vibe with us. And if you're watching it later on, make sure you get your book, and also just listen, and hopefully you enjoy this. So let's take a deep dive into chapter four. Right, chapter four is make confidence your natural order. Right, if there's something that he started with, our Coach Prime started with, he said, "I don't use cologne." Right, somebody might pick up my scent and ask, "What are you wearing?" I just say confidence. Right, confidence is my natural order. Right, and that's something that he said that I definitely like vibe with, right? It's like, hey, when you get a whiff, confidence is my natural order, right? So later on in that chapter on page 40, he said, some people might call it arrogance or cockiness, right? I always referred it uh, I always referred it to as confidence, right? Nothing wrong with being confident, nothing wrong in believing in yourself, right? I don't think there's anything wrong in verbalizing that belief, right? In the earlier chapters, we definitely talked about I believe, right? And the importance of just believing in yourself and betting on yourself and just, exuding that, right? So that's definitely what this is about thus far is just, hey, believe in yourself. And when you do believe in yourself, just, verbalize it, right? You know, later on, in page 40 of chapter 4, Coach Prime was talking about, how sometimes another person will enter the room and it just seems different, right? And in that situation, one thing that comes to mind is, when some people enter the room and they just command that presence, right? They just command that presence, and it's like, hey, it's like someone has entered the room, and you might not know them from anywhere, but it's just they just have that vibrato and that like commanding presence, right? And that can be something that we can consider confidence. The question is, do you have that confidence and that belief in yourself to be able to exude that type of odor on a daily basis? Later on, uh, you know, he later said, you want to be confident and project it, right? I've learned early on that I had to believe in myself, because who's going to believe in me if I don't, right? You need to have that same aura at your work, right? You need to know that there's nobody more qualified to do your job than you, right? So in being confident, right, you need to believe in yourself, because yes, it is indeed true, in this life, in this world, no one is going to believe in you more than you, right? So that's definitely something to always keep in mind, you know. And he later on said, here's what I tell them: don't allow my confidence to offend your insecurity. If you know Coach Prime, this is something he says a lot, right? Don't allow my confidence to offend your insecurity, right? And when I heard that the first time, it reminds me of the poem by Maya Angelou that goes by I Rise, right? So Maya Angelou in that poem, if I remember vividly, later on, I believe in the second stanza of that poem, where she says, um, you know, um, here she basically was talking about the poem, and in the poem she would sort of like say, um, does my sassiness upset you, right? Why are you beset with gloom, right? Because I will walk like I've got oil wells, right? And then just fast forwarding, and then she goes with still I rise and stuff like that. So that sort of reminded me of that poem when I first heard Coach Prime make that statement. Don't allow my confidence to offend your insecurity, right? So later on in chapter page 41, it says, if you're educated and prepared and sincere, right, you would truly have an interest in people, and you would have total commitment and belief in what you bring to this world, you know, and that's going to be your natural confidence. Let me say that again. If you're educated, prepared, sincere, and truly have the interests of people, and you're totally and have total commitment and belief, right? Those are some of the prerequisites for you being confident, right? So whatever situation that you're going to, make sure you educate yourself, make sure you're prepared, right? And you're sincere in that situation, and you just know that, hey, whatever the case might be, I have the best interest of people at heart, right? And that in itself are the prerequisites, are the ingredients of that natural order. So that way, when you walk into that room, you can also command that presence, right? You can also have that natural confidence and order, right? So, if you're just joining us, we're on chapter 4 of Coach Prime's book, and on page 41, the second segment is performance breeds confidence, right? And when I was reading that, one thing that I annotated here was, it says, you know, now we all know a lot of people who talk the talk but don't walk the walk, right? They talk a big game but don't deliver. And that is certainly true. Like, there are a lot of people like that all over the world, in our workplace, in our lives. But one thing that he says after that was, performance is how you know if someone's confidence is justified, right? And then he later on said, the greatest job security in the world is performance, right? If you know your business and you care about doing a good job, right, you're always going to perform, right? So that also reflects on education. It's important for us to educate ourselves, right? And then he gave us an example about the NFL draft and some of the things that happens there, how it's sort of like a speed dating session when you go to the combine, and stuff like that. So later on, if there's one thing that I also annotated that Coach Prime said, he said, you know, at the NFL draft, right? He looked at them when they were telling him to come and do some bench presses, right? To come and bench press, and they were calling his name, Sanders, Sanders. It's your time to get up here and do some bench press. Coach Prime, just like Coach Prime would only do, said, I looked at them and said, no, I don't think Jerry Rice is gonna lay across my hand and have me bench press him, right? So that's not necessary. I'm good, right? And he said one of the reasons why he said that is because when it came time for the 40, I did what I do, right? So I don't think that's arrogance. To me, that's beautiful confidence. Wow. That's someone that knows themselves, and they know what it is that is expected of them, and can deliver, right? So later on, it said, sooner or later, you've got to bet on you. If you're watching this, just have that moment of reflection. Either now, tomorrow, or sometime in the future, you just have to get to a point where I am going to bet on me, right? Have that confidence enough to say, hey, it's time for me to bet on me, because you're going to be educated, you're going to be prepared, and you're going to be sincere in everything that you do, right? So later on, he later talked about you're propping up your friend, in wanting to make sure that you bet on yourself. One thing that a lot of us do is we prop up our friends and we tell them they're worthy, right? We support them, and and it says you're baking cakes and making cookies for everybody else. You're giving everybody else their flowers, right? So when are you going to basically look in the mirror and start pumping up the accomplished person that you really are? let's take this time and ask yourself, when are you going to sit there and reflect and ponder and say, I believe in me. I can do it, right? I can be a go-getter. I can be confident in myself and my skill set to go achieve whatever it is that I want to achieve. I can be confident in myself to make sure I elevate myself and I go dominate whatever it is that is put in front of me. I can succeed, right? So when I read that, it was just, led for time for self reflection. Later on, if you flip over to the next page, one thing that he also said that I saw also just reflected on and annotated was, you don't have to look back. And it was giving us example of like people in sales, for example. You don't have to look back and see what your sales are. You don't have to look back and see what your engagements are. You don't have to look back and see how effective you are. You already know. You should always bet on yourself, right? And to me, it's like, wow. It's like, if you bet on yourself and you put in the work, right? That's all that matters, right? And one thing I also appreciate about Coach Prime, is in a lot of the chapters and the example, especially in this one, he also sort of reminded us that, with this example, saying, he's not he's not perfect, right? And we don't have to be perfect. We just have to put in the work, right? Here he talked about, now here's my last word on performance, right? I am not perfect. I'm not a perfect father. Neither am I a perfect man. I always tell my kids that. But when they look around, I'm going to be there every turn to support them and love them. I put in the work. Last week in the previous chapter, we talked about what's important and the fact that a lot of us, our family, is part of our why. Right? So it's important for us to put in the work, right? And make sure that we help them understand that although we're not perfect, they can always rely on us to put in the work, because you're betting on you. Wow. So the next segment, subtopic in chapter 4 is be who you say you are, right? And that, to me, I believe is a really, really important one. As the kids say nowadays, is you need to stand on business, right? Be who you say you are. You need to stand on business, meaning you need to represent something. If you say this is who you are, then you need to portray that. And hopefully what you're portraying is something positive. Hopefully what you're portraying is something that is going to be impactful and beneficial, right? To the next man. And you need to look up for the next man. So one thing that he says here is, here's an interesting experiment for y'all, right? Why don't you gather up some co-workers and family members and ask them about your most recognizable qualities, right? What kind of person do they think you are in their eyes, right? Who do they profess you to be? Then ask yourself a question: are you that person? Wow, it's certainly important, and it begs the question: should we care about people's opinion of us? Do we care about people's opinion of us? And do people's opinion of us matter? But in this situation, I think he's advising us to say, hey, what do people say about me? What do people think about me? And it's important for us to have a collective analysis of people's thoughts and opinion, not necessarily for us to just, take it to art and just, have it bother us, but use it as a point of reflection and say, hey, if 5, 6, 7 people are all saying the same thing, am I that? Right? Or is there an anomaly where it's just someone that is sort of saying this one thing based on this experience that they have of me at that particular time, while others are saying something else, right? So that's something important. Later on, he says we have an image or persona to the people who know us best, right? So you know how nowadays they say, you be faking it, I think that's what he's talking about here. To certain people that know us best, we have like this image, like this reputation, right? And sometimes you hear the comment, wow, that kind of behavior was really out of character, right? Because sometimes the people that know us best, they know us a certain way, and then when we act out of character, they're able to check us and say, "Hey, that is not you," right? But sometimes there's a behavior and persona that we have at work, there's a behavior and persona that we have in our family life, right? And there's a behavior and persona that we have with our friends, right? So it's important for us, I think, check that and make sure that the core principles align, right? So that way, when they see you elsewhere and you're acting a certain way, they don't say, "Man, that's really out of character," right? Because sometimes the way we act amongst our friends is different from our colleagues, from our family members, but the core principles and definitely, in my own opinion, should align and stay, you know, central and synergistic across the different environment or groups that you're in, right? Later on, you know, in page 44, he says, it's easy to be a good person when people are watching, but it's a whole different thing to be a good person, to be who you say you are when no one is around. That's when your true character is revealed. And to me, I'm like, wow, a lot of people, a lot of people, you know, do this without even realizing. I'm going to repeat that. It's easy to be a good person when you're watching, when people are watching, but it's a whole different thing to be a good person, to, to be who you say you are when no one is around. That's when your true character is revealed. Wow. Just let's sit there and ponder that. Either in the workplace, in our daily life, right? Where we put up this facade when there's a group of people or other colleagues around. But when you're one on one with someone, you're totally different. You belittle people, right? You speak negative of people. You're not motivational. You're not inspiring. You're not encouraging, right? But when everybody's around, you like to prop yourself up as the good person, right? That's what you call, that's what we were talking about earlier in terms of having a different image and persona, right? Either in the workplace, in your family life. So it's important for us to be good and have the best interests of our colleagues and just humans at all times, right? So later on in that page 44, he said, he's giving us an example. So what are the best ways you can be who you say you are when no one is looking, right? And it gives us an example. It says, be kind. We just talked about that, right? Even when you're having a bad day, be kind to the people around you. It doesn't take much. A smile, a kind word can make a huge difference in someone's day. You know what? Make sure to be kind to yourself also. I think that part is really, really important. Just be kind to yourself, because when you're kind to yourself, it also makes it easier for you to be kind to others. The other thing that he said was, be honest. Always tell the truth, period, right? Even when it's hard, right? The other thing that he says was, be forgiving. Everybody makes mistakes. If someone does you wrong, as tempting as it might be to rub it in, you need to forgive them. Holding on to anger and resentment will never serve you well. Let me repeat that. Holding on to anger and resentment will never serve you well. And if you're trying to elevate and dominate, I think these are some of the things that you need to reflect on a daily basis. Be forgiving. Just forgive. And like they say, let go and let God. Right? The last one that he shared with us here is, be respectful. Treat everyone with respect. And I think in today's society, this is one thing that a lot of us miss out on, is the respect. Right? It says the way you treat a CEO should be the same way you treat the cleaning crew. Things like age, race, religion, social status, they don't matter. If you treat human beings like human beings and you do that every day, you solve many problems. Wow. Imagine a manager treating their staff with respect, and imagine a staff treating the manager with respect, right? Imagine us treating the homeless man with respect, and imagine us teaching our driver, our nannies, our chefs, or the McDonald's worker with respect, right? And if you're a yes sir, yes ma'am type of individual, use it. And like they say, chivalry is not dead. If you're the type of person that will open a door, do that. If you're the type of person that will pull out the seats for someone, do that. If you're the type of person that sees an elderly lady struggling to cross the street, help. Those things go a long way, and you never know who's watching. And in seeing you do those things consistently, you might also motivate them and help change them to do something else. Wow, those key things are definitely something for us to ponder and reflect on. So the other subtopic here is humble yourself, right? It says, yes, you can be confident and humble at the same time. Humility is a virtue that is really overlooked, particularly in the world that we're living in, where everybody seems to be chasing attention. It is not wrong. In the world we live in, everybody seems to be chasing some sort of attention, right? And humility is often overlooked. So, in wanting to teach us to be confident, it's also important for us to remain humble, right? So, one thing that you also said when we flip over is when you're humble, you're not afraid to admit that you're wrong. And I think that's one key principle that he said that I highlighted. The other thing is there's real benefit to being humble. It makes you more likable. Wow. Imagine that, being confident and yet humble and still being more likable. That's powerful. That means you can walk into any room, command the room, yet be humble, and live there where everybody's still gravitating towards you and you still being likable. That in itself, it's like the prerequisites to networking, the prerequisites to being able to elevate, right? So the other thing that you said that I annotated was confidence in yourself also gives you confidence in others, right? Remember when he started the chapter, it's like, don't let my confidence upset your insecurity, right? So if you're confident in yourself, it also gives you confidence in others, right? Because when you're confident in yourself, you're able to also give people benefit of the doubt, right? And also give them the opportunity to be confident in themselves, right? So later on, the subtopic, little things means a lot, right? You know, Coach Prime basically said it's also easy to get carried away with achievements because they're special and worthy of celebration, right? So this is him giving an example of maybe we got a promotion, maybe we got a good sale, maybe we got into a good college or something big, right? We sort of give attention to those big things in our life. You just bought a house, you just bought a car, you just something uh I don't want to say noteworthy, but what society has deemed as a major staple, right? You just got into Harvard, you just got into college, you just got into residency, you just graduated. As a lot of people are going to be graduating, this May and stuff like that. And you just got into fellowship, you just got into residency, you just got into culinary school, you just got into carpentry school. Those things they're usually celebrated and special and worthy, which they should be. However, one thing that he's trying to help us understand here is we should still concentrate on the little things, the fundamentals, the stuff that hardly ever gets attention. So the little things, right? The key is in the details, just doing the little things. And doing the little things consistently, it certainly can help us elevate. It can help us dominate. And the beautiful thing about doing the little things is, regardless of who gives us recognition or not, regardless of who sees what we're doing, it doesn't matter. Because when you continue to do the little things, it will definitely position you for success. It will position you for a way for someone else to come and later notice the great work that you're doing, right? So he said, Coach Prime says, I'm a firm believer in doing the little things well. Over time, if you focus on doing your best at the so-called inglorious task, it's going to add up to much more significant things. And that's sort of what we talked about. And when you're on the big stage, your confidence will be well founded because you've earned your accomplishment and you've worked your way in the right manner, right? The one thing that I also annotated here was, in doing the little things, you're also educating yourself. In doing the little things, right, you're also preparing yourself for that big stage. Because when that big stage comes, then you're much, much prepared, right? And then you can exude more confidence because now you're going into that situation prepared, right? So later on, he said, what are some little things that could make a big difference for you, right? He said, arrive early at appointments. It shows you're punctual, organized, and respectful of someone else's time. If you're made to wait, bring along a book to read or write in your journal. Make use of the extra time, right? The other thing he said here is, be polite to everyone, even people you don't know, especially people you don't know. If you are a yes sir, yes ma'am kind of person, uh, if you hold the doors for others, if you're especially cordial, make sure you're doing that. Being polite, being respectful. We talked about earlier, and those are part of the little things, right? That goes a long way. And the other thing was, take care of your body. If you eat healthy foods, exercise regularly, get enough sleep, it's going to come across in the way you look and the way you feel. You will always feel on top of your game. The other thing that he's sharing with us is, learn something new every day, right? If you notice, we're playing some nice tunes in the background. That's through learning, right? And if you notice from the previous video, you can see some overlay. That's through learning, right? It's important for us to learn and grow. Our mind is a tremendous tool that you'll be surprised the different things that you can absorb. So it's important to learn every day. Whether you read books, watch educational videos, take online courses, attend conferences or workshop that relates to your business, you're going to make yourself better. And if you're in a situation whereby, your leaders or whoever at your workplace are not giving you opportunity to learn, you can always do that by yourself. Empower yourself, believe in yourself, right? And seek out other opportunities, right? The last one here is, give something back. When I read that, I was just like, it's important to pay it forward, right? Do this by volunteering in your community, donating to a worthy cause. Not only will you be helping others, you would feel a lot better about yourself while building a reputation that others will notice. Learn to give without the expectation of reciprocation. That itself sums up a lot of things that we can all benefit from, especially in today's society. Learn to give without the expectation of someone reciprocating what you're giving them. And I believe that aligns with a lot of things in being respectful. You be respectful, even if someone is not respectful back to you. Because if you're not expecting them to be respectful back to you, you just do your part, right? Give in all things. And as always, before we end today's episode, we're going to also take time to reflect on some of Coach Prime's takeaways, right? The first one is confidence makes everything, y'all. And if you read that in Coach Prime's voice, definitely tells. The second one is your consistent performance is always going to be the best job security. The third one, be who you say you are. The fourth one, is it even possible to be confident and humble at the same time? Yes, it is. The fifth one, little things means a lot. And just like that, chapter 4 has been analyzed and concluded. Thank you very much for joining us on this Friday. As always, the promise is just to engage with you for 30 minutes of your time on a Friday. And until next week, it's certainly been a pleasure. And we certainly hope that upon having this conversation and you watching this at a later time, you're always going to be able to enter a room and command that room because you're confident and you're making confidence your natural order. Until next week, make sure you grab your book and read along and join us every Friday. So long.